Hey gorgeous, this is episode number 295 and we have the amazing Samantha Riley back on the show.
Hi, this is Samantha Riley and you're listening to Heart Sells Podcast with Christine Schlonski. Enjoy.
I'm so looking forward to another episode with Samantha Riley. I just love how she puts the focus on more income, more freedom, and more impact. As a speaker, international business growth strategist, as a #1 best-selling author, the host of the Thought Leader Business Lab podcast, she has over 25 years personal experience in building and growing businesses. And she helps leaders and experts to scale their business by leveraging their knowledge. And today we will be talking about how to value your genius. So let's dive right into the second episode with the wonderful Samantha Riley. Well, I am so super pumped to have you back today, Sam. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to diving even deeper with you.
Yeah, I just love, we talked about the Thought Leaders Positioning Checklist, and you shared that there are 5 amazing steps people can take to really have that clarity and a really great foundation. So their soulmate client or ideal client comes to them and works with them instead of someone else who obviously can't be you. Can we talk about the piece of, authenticity? Because sometimes we do feel like maybe we are not good enough or far along to teach something, or we might be afraid that we can't really deliver the way we are thinking we can, or that the client might not be happy. Like how does this piece of authenticity come into sales and make sales actually better?
I think if we take a step back and look at what it is that we actually deliver, so many of us don't value our own genius. We don't value what it is that we bring that is so unique that no one else delivers exactly like we do. And we get into this mindset of thinking, wow, if we're going to sell someone at this high ticket level, we start to think they're going to want this and they're going to want this. I know that when I first started business coaching, because I transitioned from wellness coaching. So at the time I was running retreats on creating your ideal life, and a lot of people were very unhappy in their career. And people were coming to me and saying, Sam, you've been in business for so many years. How can we do that? And that's how I transitioned into business coaching. But because it wasn't something that I went out to create, it was something that organically happened. I was thinking, okay, what do these people need from me? Well, they need to make sure that their finances are in order, or they've got a business plan, or all of these logical things which do not come naturally to me. Like I set figures, like sales goals, but that's about it. I make sure my accounts are reconciled. Other than that, I've got bookkeepers, I've got accountants, they do all that. But there was this logic that kicked in that said, Sam, you need to be able to help them with their numbers and their P&Ls and their all of the other things that happen in the accounting packages that I have no idea about. And that's when imposter syndrome kicked in. And I think that when we move away from our the way that we authentically deliver and really tapping into what it is that makes us unique and our genius, that piece of us that creates the magic, that's when this imposter syndrome kicks in. So it's really important to know, what are you a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 in, and don't stray from that. Don't get caught thinking that your clients want something else, because we need to understand that our clients have come to us, have been attracted to us because of who we are and the message that we share.
Yeah, this is so impactful and so true. They come to you because what you've shared before. They didn't come to you to create all the stuff like for them. Obviously, it's good to have a conversation about what else would they need, and then you can see if you can create it, or if you can have like a joint venture with someone else, or like some kind of partnership. But it's really staying with your genius. So what would you say to people? Because I see that a lot in my clients, and I think we all have this challenge that when we're really brilliant with something, it's difficult for us to see. It's difficult for us to put a price tag on it. We would do it all day long. We would do it for free. It excites us. It brings joy. How can people start to value their own brilliance more?
I love that you say this, because I think that the piece that comes to us so easily, we think that because it does come to us so easily, we think that it's easy for everyone else. We don't even realize that there's a value to it. And I think that this is where it's really powerful to reach out to people that are close to you in all different capacities. Reach out to people that you have worked with, reach out to people that you are friends with, reach out to, maybe some past clients, and actually ask them what they think is your genius zone, or what they think is, that thing that is your brilliance, as you mentioned before. Other people can give you a deeper insight than you can yourself, because like you said, it just comes so easily, you don't realize it. So reaching out to people and asking them these questions is really, really powerful, and will help you to really see what it is that you bring. It's just, have you ever done that before, Christine?
Yeah, I have, because I had a challenge. Like when I started, I had so many ideas of how I could serve and what I could do and what I've been through with my experience, so where I could add value. And I just couldn't see it. I still couldn't see it. And today I say, well, remember, you look out of your eyes. If you are not in front of a mirror, you're not going to see your whole body. And it's the same with your brilliance. You might have an idea, but if nobody kind of shows you the mirror, you can't see it. You need other people. And it feels a bit weird, right, to ask others. I found when I did that exercise. But then it's so valuable, the feedback.
Yeah. So when I did it, like I said, I reached out to friends. I reached out to people that had spoken at my conferences. I reached out to current and past clients. And what was so absolutely amazing to me was that everyone's answers were almost identical. And I was like, really? This is how other people see me? And it was just at that moment, it's like, I get it now. I get it.
Yeah.
And it's what other people see, that's the brilliance.
Awesome. So what exactly did you ask so that people, felt comfortable in sharing feedback as well? Like someone might be listening thinking, okay, well, I can ask these friends, I can ask this past client, but how do you ask in a way that gives you the results for better understanding?
This is so cool. And I'm glad you asked it, because I think that the first thing to remember is that humans love to help. We love to help other people. So whilst we might be thinking, oh, I don't want to reach out and bother that person, the other person's probably going to be thinking, wow, how lovely that person reached out and asked me. Of course, I would love to help them out. So that's the first thing, is that people love to help. And I just said, look, I'm wanting to get some clarity on a few things. I was wondering if you can answer these questions. And I mean, this was a while ago, but it was things like, what are 3 words that you would use to describe me? What do you think my greatest gift is in helping people in business? Asking things like that. What do you feel are my the values that I exude the most? And getting the answers to these, or what do you think is, one of my zones of genius? And seriously, everyone really answered almost identical. So from there, it was actually really easy to pull it all together.
Yeah. I just love that. Thank you so much for sharing the insight. And another thing I just realized when I heard you talking, what happened when I really understood more of the value I bring to the table. I remember when I was still in corporate. And when I started out in corporate, I did not have an idea about sales whatsoever, right? So I went through a training, and then I was on the phone, and I remember my hand was shaking. I was so nervous making my first call. And I had been listening in the office while I did my research in a big office space, how other people conducted their calls. And so I was so amazed of how eloquently you could say things on the telephone. And, I was really thinking like, wow, will I ever get there? And then some years later, I did a call for someone in my team, and they looked at me with that look like, wow, will I ever get there? Right? This look of admiration. And I observed it, and I had the capacity to observe it because I was, in the conversation with the client. But, by that time, I was so good at what I did that I did not need 100% focus. So I was also observing what my team member was learning at the same time to make sure they understood what was going on in the call. And that was a moment when I realized when you look at other people and you see the reaction, you also get a pretty good idea of how they perceive you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so from that experience, I took that forward. And with my clients now, I always make sure that when we coach, that I also observe like all the tiny reactions or the ahas, or the eyes are going bigger, or maybe the jaw dropping, like an extreme moment, but where you get that feedback without someone saying it to you.
Uh-huh. Well, when you're coaching, it very often isn't someone saying it to you. Exactly like you say, all of a sudden someone goes from a furrowed brow to a huge smile, or you just see it's almost like they've just breathed a huge sigh of relief and their shoulders have just dropped. Like they're the cues that we get when we're coaching.
Yeah, exactly. And then what I added at the end of the coaching, I started to ask, like, what have you gotten out of the session?
Mm-hmm.
Because then it gives you like the constant feedback, and they kind of will, mirror what was really, really good for them, what helped them to move forward. And from these answers, you can also get like constant feedback around your brilliance that you might not be seeing. Because maybe you thought you helped them with A, but really they got A and B, and you were not even aware of B because it was just a thing you did with the other thing.
Yeah, exactly. We don't even realize when we're in our true genius. Sometimes it completely goes under the radar because we do it so intuitively. It happens without even thinking. That other people are like, how did she do that?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So let me ask you, was it always easy for you to sell?
So I think that, as you were talking just earlier, and you had your corporate job and you weren't selling, and it was something that you had to learn to do and get better at. For me, I had a bit of a different experience myself, because I started my first business when I was 20, and I feel that I was so young that I had no clue about anything. So it was almost like I had no idea the things that could go wrong, so I wasn't afraid of them. I just went out and I knew you just sold some stuff, and that's what you did in business. And then, you exchanged some goods or services and someone gave you some money. And I just did that all day, every day, and it didn't bother me. And then, so from the time I was 20 to the time I was 40, I had a few different businesses. But when I was 40, I separated from my husband, and we'd been married 20 years. And all of a sudden my world imploded. I started to really question my self-confidence, my self-worth. I went through this really awful phase where I didn't know who I was. And that's when I found it really hard to sell. All of a sudden, I knew the things that could go wrong. All of a sudden, I started to think, I'm not good enough. I can't do this. People don't like me. I had all of the negative things going through my head. And that's when I struggled to sell. So for me, selling was quite easy until I was older and I realized all the things that could go wrong. So in actual fact, the learning experience that you had, I had to do that again at sort of around the 40 years of age, start to really work on my personal growth, work on my self-confidence so that I could begin to sell again. Because, I think that the hardest thing in coaching is that we're actually selling ourselves. It's not like we're selling a product that's very easy to, you paid for this box, I'm going to hand that box over the counter to you and someone can pick it up and walk away with it. That's quite easy compared to selling yourself, where you've got all the self-doubt or the what if I'm not good enough, or what if they're upset with me, or if they don't get what they want. I found that a lot more difficult to overcome.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for sharing that. And that just brings me back to the first episode where we actually talked about the self-worth piece and how that's going to make you or help you in selling. Like when you can see your brilliance, what we discovered in this episode, and you really understand your value, then it is aligned to the self-worth. And in life, it happens that there are things like, splitting up after 20 years. I mean, that's a huge change. And a lot of people have gone through experiences where, life changed from one day to the other, right? Could be an accident, could be whatever. And then self-doubt creeps in and you kind of wonder how you can solve all of this.
And that's where you have to go back to what we spoke about in the first episode of being very clear what it is that you do, very clear on who it is that you serve. And the third piece that we didn't talk about in the last episode is very clear on what it is that you're selling. So what is the package, or what is the program? What does it include exactly? What is the outcome that your ideal client will get? And how much is it? You need to know all of that with absolute clarity so that when someone says, how do I work with you? It's just, this is the answer. I think that a lot of people don't get clarity on this, and that's when they get cotton mouth. And someone says, well, how do I work with you? And they're like, oh, well, you could do this, or, and it's kind of, it's this much. And people can intuitively feel that you've got no idea. So the trust is eroded in that moment. So all the trust that you built up with that prospect is straight away, it's just gone. So you need to know very clearly what it is that you're selling and what the price point is.
How can people get clarity? Because I know, especially as coaches or consultants, like selling yourself, selling the services you are making up, so to speak. Like, how can they get that clarity and confidence so they can say, well, this is what I do. This is what people get when they do the work, right? Because we cannot guarantee if somebody doesn't do the work. And this is how long it usually takes. And this is what it costs. Like, do you have an approach for that?
Absolutely. Where most people start to do this is they start to think, what are the deliverables? So they start to think, well, I could give them a one-on-one session once a month, and a Facebook group, and a group coaching Q&A hot seat, 2 times a month. But that's irrespective. It doesn't matter what you're delivering. What matters is the transformation. So the question you have to ask yourself is, what is the transformation that I'm delivering? What is this ideal client? What is the outcome most likely to be? And that's how we price our product, on the outcome. If we know that we can get someone to, make 6 figures in their business in 6 months, then it's very clear to understand, well, what is the ROI of that? So then we can say, okay, so the price point, even if we sell that at $5,000, that's a bargain. Where I think a lot of people, totally not what I would charge, PS. But if someone was trying to think, well, we've got this one-on-one and this Facebook group, and then they're thinking, what would I charge for that? But and then that's why it doesn't work. That's why they can't come up with an amount. So what is that transformation? If there's someone that's overweight and feeling really uncomfortable in the bedroom with their partner, how much is it worth to them to feel amazing and to rekindle their romance with their partner? Like, that's it. That's exactly right. And all of a sudden then it doesn't matter what the deliverables are. The person doesn't care. We just want to know what the transformation is. So start with the transformation and work backwards. And then you ask yourself, to deliver that transformation and for our client to get that outcome, what would we need to deliver to ensure they got there? So it's a completely different way around of putting our programs together.
Well, that's such an amazing advice. And I think it's so important for people to get clear on what the value is that their clients are perceiving. Right? Because as we said, like your brilliance, it comes so easy. It's hard to put a price tag on it. But if you understand the transformation and what it's worth to your client, it's so much easier to figure out what price to charge.
Absolutely. Because all of a sudden then you're charging for an outcome, not for a deliverable. And that's not what we're delivering. You know, people don't pay for us so that they can be in a Facebook group and do a session with us. That's just what they get, but that's not why they're working with us.
Brilliant. Yes, love it. So what was the very, very first thing you have ever sold in your life?
So when I think I was probably about 8 years old, I remember I actually like to cook, and I remember my mum teaching me how to make these sweets. They were like hard toffees, and you sucked on them all day. And, you know, and I loved them because they just kept giving and giving and giving all this sugary sweetness. And I made a batch and I took them to school, and everyone's like, oh my goodness, we want one, we want one, we want one. And I was like, oh, so if I made some more tonight, do you want to pay for, 50 cents for this tomorrow? And I got a list out and everyone was putting their name down. And every night I would go home and I would make these toffees and I would sell out every single day. And the cool part of this is that I realized very quickly that I didn't really like trading my time for money, and I didn't want to go home and make these toffees every night. So what I would do was pay my sister and my brother to make them, and I would charge them less, and I didn't even make them. So that was my first business.
I love it. It's so brilliant. I mean, obviously you are a born business person. So,
either that or lazy, one or the other.
Well, or I would say like very smart. And it does reflect that you started your first business when you were 20, going full in. And I just love this idea that you were already having a team or like people working for you and making a profit. It's so awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. What a fun story. And you do sell more when you are positioned in the right way, right? Your first business was toffees. And
which I've never talked about before either.
Cool. And obviously the benefits are clear. You had sweet all day long. I probably would have been one of your clients. So, but if you can really come with the right positioning, in case you do have a service that people, cannot have a taste of right then and there, but they need to understand the transformation or the path they can walk down on with you. It's really important to position yourself in the correct way. And you brought us the thought leader positioning checklist. And absolutely. I really encourage you, when you're listening, to hop on over and get your copy. I will put all the links in the show notes, as well as the links that connect to Sam, so you can check out her beautiful work. Tell us a little bit more about the checklist and why it is so important that I do get my copy.
You need to be positioned in the way that your ideal clients are attracted to you. So when you're positioned as the trusted authority and you're seen as the go-to expert, people will come to you because they have faith. They trust that you can solve their problem. So you need to have a profile that's built so that people trust you. They need to know that you're the person that can help them. This checklist helps you to build an audience or your tribe of people, the right kind of people, because that's the other thing. You shouldn't be trying to attract everyone, because then you attract no one. So through this checklist, you can uncover the steps to stop being the world's best kept secret and have people thinking that you're everywhere, which obviously we can't because we're very busy, but we want people to think that you're everywhere. So that's the checklist goes through the main principles that you need to, or the things that you need to check off to position yourself as the authority or the go-to expert in your niche.
Awesome. So valuable. Thank you so much for this wonderful gift. And what would you like to leave us with after the second amazing episode? I could talk for hours with you, but what's like the final advice you would give to our listeners?
I think the final piece that I want to leave people with is to not be afraid to charge too much. I think too many people charge not enough because they don't really understand. I call it the genius, you call it the brilliance. It's the same thing. What is that thing that no one else on the planet does exactly like we do? And because it is so unique, no one else can compare with you in that exact same way. So get clear on that, and then you'll start to realize how much you really are worth.
Love it. Well, thank you so much, Sam. I really appreciate your time, all the golden nuggets you dropped. I hope people took a ton of notes. And please, gorgeous, make sure you get your copy of the leader positioning checklist, thought leader, because that's what you are. You are the leader in your field after you figured out how to communicate it in a way that only you can do this. So thank you so much. And everyone else, have a wonderful day. I hope, gorgeous, you have gotten so much out of this episode. And I see that over and over and over again, that we have challenges to see our own genius. We have challenges to see why we are better or why we are worthy. And we have self-doubt creeping up. Every time you go to a new level, you will have these challenges. So please make sure that you see your genius. If you don't see your genius, find someone who sees it and borrow their belief. Hop on over to ChristineSchlonski.com to find the show notes, the transcript of Samantha's episode, as well as the resources she is sharing, her podcast, and all the links that are leading to her and her work, so you can go deeper if you wish, and you can be really inspired. Once you're over there, sign up for the empowerment notes. That's empowerment right into your inbox, where I share tools, strategies, some motivation, inspiration, and things I usually do not share on social media. So if you want to be up to date with Heart Sells Podcast as well, make sure you are a subscriber of the empowerment notes. Thank you so much for having been here. Have a wonderful day wherever you are in this beautiful world. And I'm saying bye for now.